Welcome. You're listening to the Louie Minor Show. I'm your host, Bell County Commissioner Louie Minor. Today is June 2nd, 2024. Happy Pride Month. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. So I've just realized that it's been over a month, about a month since the last show, so I apologize for that. Been very busy doing a lot of things. I'm going to catch you up on what's been going on. But it's been a busy time period. Elections. We had a natural disaster. And so let's get started with the most current and historic news. And let me pull up a clip real quick.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Those are the first 5 counts coming out of this jury, finding Donald J. Trump guilty on the first 5 felony counts. Reading the rest as we are getting it from our court reporters.
Starting with count 6.
Count 6, guilty. Count 7, guilty. Count 8, guilty. And you'll see on the screen we're tracking ahead. Count 9, guilty. Count 10, guilty. Count 11, guilty. Count 12, guilty. Count 13, guilty. Count 14, guilty. Count 16, guilty. Count 17, guilty. Count 18, guilty. Count 19, guilty. Count 20, guilty. Count 21, guilty. Count 22, guilty. Count 23, guilty. Count 24, guilty. Count 25, guilty. Count 26, guilty. Count 27, we're seeing that on the screen, guilty. Count 28, guilty. Those are the first 28 felony counts here as read by the jury. Count 29, guilty. Count 30, guilty. Count 31, guilty. Count 32, guilty. Count 33 and 34, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
So there you go. Whether you like it or not, history was made. First time a former president has been convicted of a felony. And former President Trump was convicted of 34 felonies as of today, as of this date. More may be coming. But as of right now, he is a convicted felon, convicted by a jury of his peers that in part were selected by the former president's counsel. So that happened, I believe, on Thursday, and there was a lot of going back and forth with the former president complaining to everyone. I believe all of the local, or not local, but all of the who's who of Texas Republican politics all rushed condemning the verdict. Ted Cruz, John Cornyn, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, all of them quickly condemning the jury. So the law and order party, when it doesn't get their way, when they don't get their way, it's a sham. It's a banana republic. Joe Biden is behind it. And yeah, so even though it was the state of New York that convicted him, and no president can, since it's a state charge, can what is the word I'm looking for? Not plea, but pardon himself. There you go. Took me a second to think about it, but a president cannot pardon himself, at least from a state charge. And there's questions if he could do it for federal charges. That's never happened before. It's never been tested, but I'm sure we would get that test very quickly if the former President Trump gets reelected. So that's the most current national news right now is President Trump. Is it going to affect him in the polls? Who knows? Maybe, probably not. I think if people were already committed to voting for him, that they are. But yeah, this is going to be a very weird election, very weird election. But we're going to have to stay with our fundamentals, talking to the voters, going where the voters are, houses, neighborhoods, parks, places where people congregate, and talk to the voters and let them know what Democrats stand for and why they should come out and vote for us. So now we'll switch over to local, state. Well, let's say state. We'll switch over to statewide results. We had a primary runoff election on 5/28. It decided some local Republican races, but I think a lot of the attention was at the House of Representatives. The Speaker of the House, he was forced into a runoff, and all of the Republican leadership, except the governor, was against him. Ken Paxton, the lieutenant governor, even Donald Trump weighed in and endorsed the speaker's opponent. So let me cue up a little clip.
Spend category. Up to $500 spent each billing cycle. Learn more at citi.com/custom cash.
It was true grassroots that won this election, true grassroots. So that 75 days, 76 days gave me an opportunity to reach out to Southeast Texas and explain to them how important my service was and will be, and that's why I won.
On what was no doubt a steamy Tuesday in the Golden Triangle, embattled Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan narrowly retained his HD 21 seat by a slim 366 vote margin, sidestepping electoral oblivion and delivering a stinging counterpunch to his antagonists, former President Trump, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and especially Attorney General Ken Paxton. Viewed by many as a Republican firewall preventing complete domination of the legislature by the GOP's hyper-conservative wing, Phelan vowed to return to Austin as Speaker, having survived the most expensive House race in Texas history. Our good friend, Rice political analyst Mark Jones, believes Phelan is in solid position to retain his gavel.
Phelan certainly has enough Republican support right now that when you combine that with Democrats, he has more than enough votes to be reelected as Speaker of the Texas House.
Panel Paxton responded with threats of retaliation, and Patrick blamed Phelan's survival on Democratic crossover votes. All right, Paul Castro, what do you make of this?
Dade Phelan is Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful people in the state of Texas. Why would the Golden Triangle give up one of the most powerful positions to represent their interests because a couple of politicians got butthurt about Paxton's impeachment? You know, if there was no Democratic primary or there was no Democratic opponent for the general election, 25,000 votes were cast. That's about 4 times what other runoffs got. So yeah, some Democrats flipped over, but you know why they flipped over? Because their economic interests were at stake. It wasn't as if the replacement was going to become Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House was going to flip somewhere else. They want the power. I understand what they did.
I'm going to throw this at Sue Level. If you're in that district and you have no Democrat running in that race and it is a race of consequence, would you, as a lifelong Democrat, vote in that race?
Sure, because you want the power, because it affects everybody across the board. As a speaker, you want that kind of power for especially in Beaumont, which gets kicked to the curb a lot. Yeah, you want to keep the power. It would be a really stupid move not to keep the power.
All right, Bob, I use the term stinging, rebuke, counterattack. Your thoughts?
Well, runoffs are about turnout, and clearly the speaker got the turnout and spent more money than has ever been spent in the speaker's race on this. He will be reelected as speaker because the way we do this in Texas is all of the Democrats will support him, and then you only need a handful of Republicans to get him in there. And kind of like the way the U.S. House is running right now. It never was that way before, but that's the way the U.S. House is running now. Unless the Republicans will come together as a bloc and say we are going to elect the speaker, Dade Phelan will be the next speaker.
All right, Bill, I use the term firewall, although, you look at Dade Phelan's record, he pushed through an abortion ban, universal carry, the biggest property tax relief package in U.S. history, but he's not conservative enough.
Well, we're going to talk about this in the Democratic House race in a few minutes here. I mean, it's these purity tests. I mean, unless you're absolutely with me on everything, you need to be kicked to the curb. And this is what the two-party system has brought us today. And that's why they keep moving further and further away from where the American people are. I couldn't help but watch this race and think about Tip O'Neill's famous saying, all politics is local. I mean, a great demonstration of that truth.
All right, Charles, one of the big battles here is whether Phelan will give in and not award any chairmanships to Democrats.
Well, I mean, and I think this is the question about if he's going to retain the speakership, and everybody's saying he will. But if he doesn't give Democrats chairmanships, then they're probably not going to vote for him for speaker. However, you have 49 Republicans who signed a letter on Friday saying they will not support a candidate who does not ban giving Democratic chairs. And so he has not answered to that yet. And Tom Oliverson and Shelby Slauson, two of his opponents for speaker, have said they will not do it. There's two more opponents that are probably going to come out and run who also are claiming they will not do it. And so if you have a minority of Republicans who are willing to support him with a majority of Democrats and him still giving Democratic chairs, then yeah, you'll probably get him as speaker. But if you're not going to get, and also the rules state that all the Republicans are supposed to support who they choose in the Republican caucus. And so we'll see what happens.
All right.
So the speaker was able to hold on to his seat during the runoffs. However, many of the other incumbents that were challenged, and their challengers were supported primarily by Abbott, did not make it back. Of I think it was 15 total that were in the runoffs. Abbott and the people that he backed, 11 of them won. The challengers beat the incumbents, and then the remaining 4 were able to hold on to their seats. So on that day, Abbott said that he now has the votes for vouchers, but I still don't think that is the case. There's going to be obviously no Democrat is going to support that. After all this that has happened between the governor and or the lieutenant governor and the speaker, and they already did not like each other. It was very evident that they did not like each other. I definitely don't think that they're going to be doing each other any favors this coming legislative session. So that's, who knows if these Republicans are going to make it past November, because, people love their schools, and I think they're going to vote like that. They're going to vote like that. They're not going to get this pro-voucher stuff that's been crammed down our throats down, and people are gonna stand up for their schools. So more to come on that. We got a lot still to go on that. But locally, let's see what happened locally on our There were no Democratic races locally that we voted for, but there were two. Well, so I'm in Bell County has two congressional districts, District 31 and District 11. I'm in District 11. So I didn't see these two, but District 31 on the Democratic side had a runoff between Stuart Whitlow and Brian Walbridge, and Stuart Whitlow winded up winning on that one. And then Maggie Ellis, who was challenging the incumbent Justice Edward Smith, beat him, and she'll
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
She'll be on the Third Court of Appeals. I believe this is a Democratic court, and from my understanding, if I got all the facts correct, this will be an all-woman court. So that'll be pretty interesting. I don't think we have any Third Court of Appeals that is 100% female. But locally, on the Republican side, there were a couple of things that needed to be hashed out. They had a school board member, but I don't know anything about that. But for District Attorney Stephanie Newell against Jeff Parker, they went to a runoff, and the vote is so close. Even still, it's Stephanie Newell got 2,316 votes, and Jeff Parker got 2,299 votes. 17 vote difference. And from what I was told, from my understanding, there are 17 provisional ballots out there, and I believe around 81 military overseas ballots that are out. So definitely plenty of votes out there to turn this election, to swing this election. If I was Jeff Parker, I would call for a recount. And, early voting was affected by our disaster that we had. Knocked out trees and power to Temple and Killeen, or Temple and Belton, Morgan's Point. So a lot of areas, a lot of voters were affected, and some of those polling locations never came back online. So, like I said, I think Mr. Parker has definitely some wiggle room for maybe a lawsuit, another election. I don't know. They just had a lawsuit, and a judge ordered a new election for a judge in, I believe, Harris County. And the incumbent, the winner of that one, has already been in office for 2 years. So, but they did order a new election for that one. So, I mean, I think there's a possibility that something could happen there. But, that's for the Republicans and Mr. Parker to figure out. I'm just interested in what's happening as a spectator on the sidelines. And the next race that they had is an open seat, Precinct 3 County Commissioner. Bill Schuman is not running for re-election. They had, I believe, 7 or 8 people run for that. And the two top vote getters went to the runoff. And we have Greg Reynolds coming out on top with 1,413 votes against Mr. Wayne Tyrock, 769 votes. So the Republican nominee is Greg Reynolds, and he'll be going against our dear friend Terrace Goodwin. So I'm going to love to see how they interact, how the public interacts with them. Hopefully they'll get to some debates so people can hear what they have to say. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch that play out. And finally, this one was a little surprising to me. Justice of the Peace, Precinct 3, Place 1, another open seat. They had appointed Judge Reed into that spot. And, Judge Reed, if you don't know him, he's pretty senior already. So I don't think he had planned on running for re-election anyway when they appointed him. But we had Roseanne Fisher and Timothy Taylor. And I've known Tim for quite a while. He's still in law enforcement. I was in law enforcement, back then when I met him. But Roseanne Fisher, white woman, Tim Taylor, a black man, and Tim definitely had the support of the Home Builders Association, the Realtors Association. He got more votes in the primary prior to the runoff than anyone else. And I was going to be surprised, and that I'd expected Tim to win. I did, but I don't know what happened. Anyways, Roseanne Fisher, she'll be the Republican nominee. She got 931 votes, and Tim got 709 votes. Miss Fisher will be running against the Democrat, Matt West, for that seat. And so that's our local ticket. We now got a local ticket. Oh, also, whoever the comes out ahead on the district attorney, we do have a Democrat running for district attorney, Kurt Glass. He's still on the ballot. He had got into some personal issues, and I believe he wanted to resign his spot on the ballot, but I think he did that too late, and he is on the ballot. I don't know if he can resign. If he does resign, I think the party can appoint someone, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But and maybe that'll be an opportunity for someone if he does follow through with wanting to resign, and then the party can appoint someone to take his place on that ticket. But hey, who knows? Like I said, that is everything from the primary runoffs. I mean, it was a lot of stuff that we had going on with the runoff elections, but now we know who's going to be running against the other Democrats that have been unopposed and been campaigning and raising money all this time. So definitely the Republicans are going to have to play catch up. So, like I mentioned a couple of times before, we did have a disaster come through. It was tornadoes. They said it was 2 tornadoes and some 80-mile-per-hour straight line winds. Just to put into context, what we've been having some weird weather here in Texas. The month of May, we received almost 16 inches of rain. Almost 16 inches of rain. The most ever since we've been recording records, rainfall records. Both our lakes, they were probably 50% full, very low. We were concerned. We were in a drought still. And with all this rain, within just maybe like a week or two at the most, those lakes went from 50% all the way up to 100+%. So I think the last time I saw one of them, it was like 135%. But significant rainfall all through the state of Texas, and so we had this wind tornado event came through Bell County, affected a lot of the county, but most of it was centered around Morgan's Point and Temple. That was where a lot of the damage was recorded. Then the storm moved on into the Houston area and knocked out power to, I believe it was almost 1 million people down there, and knocked down some very large transmission lines. So very, very strong winds, strong rain events that have been occurring. And these storms have just been popping up. I think last week they had pretty much like the same thing up in the Denton area, the Dallas area, knocking out, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So, I mean, this thing's been, like I said, been going on, this weird weather like this for most of last month. But back to our disaster that we had here, it was not expected. We've been getting hail, so people were probably expecting hail. But this was very significant. I toured some of the damage in the Temple area, buildings destroyed, rooftops missing, homes messed up, cars totaled. It's very significant damage. So let me play the press conference that the mayor of Temple put on immediately following this event.
First thing I want to say is this was a very strong and devastating tornado. There are many people that lost property, many people that lost homes. There were a few injured. Thankfully, nothing very serious. I don't think Scott and White and our other medical facilities had many admissions or anything like that. So even though property damage was extensive, the most important thing, that being the lives of our neighbors, where everyone seems to be in good order there, thankfully. I want to, as always, emphasize the hard work and the dedication of our public servants. We had fire and police crews out just immediately, all hands on deck. Everyone was working together. Good communication. I spent some time in the Emergency Operations Center last night and again this morning, and we're blessed to have the professionalism that we have here in Temple. Our folks were prepared and doing a very good job. Also, to our public works employees, the floodwaters that we had last night on top of last week's floodwaters and maybe the week before has really been trying for us lately, and our public works folks have really stood up to the challenge and are really doing a good job. We all have a lot to be proud of with those folks. Overall, like I said, the damage is extensive, mostly in West Temple. That's where the tornado actually touched down. There is extensive damage to property, both businesses and homes there. So I've talked to other people that are calling me from West Adams saying, man, the damage is extensive, number one, and traffic is really backed up. Stay out of there. Let the professionals get in there and do their work. The last thing they need is a bunch of people that don't need to be there, causing traffic jams and just sort of being in the way. So I haven't driven out there, although I want to. But again, I'm not an expert. I would just be in the way. So we ask you to please stay out of there. The next place that probably had the most extensive damage around town is South Temple. I was told today that a lot of that is simply tree damage, trees that have been blown over, blown into houses and things like that. So again, very extensive damage there. And if you will recall, back in 2021, The city of Temple contracted with a company after that ice storm in February, contracted with a company from Alabama to come out and to help us with the debris. We have been in contact with that same company. They did a stellar job last time. We expect nothing less from them this time, and they will be on the ground tomorrow to assess damage and to basically bring their professional opinion here to see what assets they need to bring to Temple to help us with the cleanup. If you'll remember last time, the cleanup did take a while, and we expect this one to take a while also. If my recollection is correct, I believe that company in 21 removed 600,000 cubic yards of debris. And that's just off the top of my head. It may have been more, but either way, it is substantial. And so we're just going to ask the citizens of Temple to be patient. And just like last time, we're working to get there. Get the debris out to the side of the road if you can. Be prepared for them because they will be on the ground, I would assume, the very early part of next week. So it'll be full cleanup mode from here on out. We did declare a disaster last night. I signed that disaster decree last night, which is helpful to us. It puts us in line for some state dollars to help with some of these expenses. And so we have issued that. It's my understanding the county is going to do the same. But that's one thing that we have done so far. Also, I want to thank other city officials, the administrative folks that got out to the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, again, last night and today, making decisions, getting marketing material out there, getting out on social media so everyone is aware of where we stand. And again, professionals all the way around, and that's always very much appreciated. We've done this before, right? With Winter Storm Uri in 20, we handled a week of freezing and, multiple public service issues. We had water line breaks, we had sewer issues, we had electric delivery issues. We did that in 20, and we survived it. We did that again in 21 with that ice storm, again, the 600,000 cubic yards of material, and we're doing it again now. So we've done this before. Our public servants, our public safety folks know how to do this. Unfortunately, lately we are well seasoned in doing this, but we have it. So I don't want anybody in the community to think that for some reason the city of Temple is standing flat-footed. We have the assets in place. We have the people in place. We're a resilient community, and we'll get through this again just like we have the last few years. So thank you to the citizens of Temple and being able to provide the tax dollars that provide the assets to keep our community clean and to keep our community safe. And so if nothing else, the message I want to pass on is that we're prepared. It's going to take a while, but we are prepared for this, and the city of Temple will be just fine. And also I ask that you be sure that whenever you see your first responders, those folks that are out there in the fire trucks and the squad cars, etc., whenever you see them after this is over, thank them, because they're the ones that are working hard to keep us safe. So again, thank you all for being here. That's the end of my comments, and we appreciate everything that y'all do for our community. Thanks.
Well, that was Mayor Tim Davis of the city of Temple giving his press conference immediately after the next day after the storm that impacted the area. It's going to take a long time to clean up these the amount of trees, limbs that are in the area. It's definitely significant amounts of tree limbs that are there. So, my critique on this is, as a county commissioner, the governing body of our county, I received no phone call, no emails about the status of anything. I had to be proactive and go out and seek that information either through phone calls or, I toured, went to the county EOC, and there were a lot of things that, I used to work in an EOC, 2 of them. I worked at the National Operations Center. That was my job, 24/7. My title was Incident Management Officer. I wrote reports, the ICS, and then we would give our reports to send them out to all of the department heads, secretaries, states. I mean, the top echelons of federal government. That's who our stuff went out to. And I was just shocked that we didn't get anything like that. And so we're going to have to do better, most definitely. And the county judge issued a disaster declaration, and I had mentioned to him during our meeting that we had last week. I asked the judge, are we going to renew the disaster declaration? And he said, oh yeah, I'll renew it on Thursday. And I mentioned to him that I thought the governing body, the commissioner's court, has to renew it. And he said no. And but I already knew that was not the case because, I researched the information and the Attorney General's opinion with that information that specifically says that the county judge cannot issue disaster declarations and secessions like that every 7 days. You can only do it once, and that same goes for a mayor. You can only do it once, and then the governing body has to renew it. So I brought that to his attention, and we had to have an emergency meeting to renew our disaster declaration. So anyways, this stuff is too important to get wrong. People's lives are trying to get their lives back in order. And if there's any hiccup with the paperwork because of something we did, shame on us when we could have corrected it. But we did. We fixed it. But it's things like that we all need to be working together to make sure we're doing the right thing for the people. And when an objection is brought up, you take it seriously, because it's not coming out of nowhere. I do my research. I don't want to misspeak. So if I say something, I probably looked it up somewhere. But anyways, we got back on track there, and issues with our buildings. We got to get an update on all of our buildings, see what's going on there, and that's that we had a significant hailstorm the week prior, where like 91 vehicles, county vehicles, were damaged. We had buildings damaged. The window in my office is damaged, and some of the other windows are damaged. But it's some weird weather that we're having here lately. And lastly, I'll talk about real quick our city elections and our ISD elections. So I guess we'll start with the one that hurts the most. The one that hurts the most, our dear friend Stacy Wilson. She did not get reelected. I think she lost her reelection by about 60 votes. And we love you, Stacy. I know you're going to do bigger and better things. And so she she had an opportunity to serve the people, and they had an opportunity to see what she's all about. And I think it was they had a lot of help. The Republicans came out against her, and so we were in a time of transition with our party, trying to elect a new chair at the time. So I don't think we were able to mobilize like we should have to help her out. But like I said, that's okay. That's okay. Everything happens for a reason, and I know Miss Stacy will come back stronger and better than ever. So then on our city council, Killeen City Council, we finally had Riakos, our good friend Riakos Adams, get elected to city council. The past 2 times he's been on city council, he was appointed once to fill Debbie Nash whenever she was appointed to mayor, and then he was appointed to fill Ken Wilkerson's seat. But our good friend finally got elected, so I'm happy for him. And they already got sworn in, and the other 2, Ramon Alvarez and Jose Segarra, both of those got elected at the at-large positions, and then obviously Mayor Debbie Nash King got reelected for that. And then for Killeen ISD School Board, we had Rodney Gilchrist and Tina Caputo. Those were the 2 that got elected to those spots. So there were 2 other candidates that we were eyeballing. Lan Carter, she always puts her name out there on the ballot, and I just definitely respect her tenacity for always wanting to represent the kids of Killeen ISD and make sure that they're getting the high quality education that they deserve. And then Joy Perez, who is a woman that I met not too long ago and spoke to her and encouraged her to run for office if she thought that things weren't going well at Killeen ISD. And she did. She did. And obviously she did not win, but she said that she has not given up. I guess she got the taste of running for office now, and we'll probably see her again, I would imagine, in the not so distant future. So keep your eyes out for Miss Joy Perez. But we have a lot of things. We're still working on the budget, and I have some traveling that I have coming up this month of June. Next weekend, I'll be going to the Texas Democratic Convention in El Paso, and I'm excited for that. Since I've been in politics over a decade now, I've attended every single state convention, and I enjoy it. You get to meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people. So, yeah, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy El Paso. So it'll be a great 2-for-1 trip after. And then after that, a week and a half after that, then I'm going to Las Vegas for the National Association of Latino Elected Officials. And I found out about this organization whenever I was at the National Association of Counties in Washington, D.C., and got invited to go to that. So I'll be going to that, and excited to network over there with my fellow Latino elected officials. And then in the month of July, I'll be going to Tampa for the National Association of Counties annual conference. Last year's was in Austin, so it was real easy to go to that one. But this one, it's in Tampa. And I'm excited for that one. I've never been to Florida. Oddly enough, never been. So hopefully there's no hurricanes while we're there. Yeah. So anyways, a lot going on, budget, and I'll definitely keep you up to date. Where we need to start interviewing some of our candidates now that they have their challengers teed up, and so I look forward to bringing that to you in the not so distant future. So have a good rest of your day, and we will talk to you next week.